website in the chat. So the next time you'd be seeing news is early May. This is the second of our, what I'm calling a brown bag webinar series. We had one in January about GIS mapping of coastal wetlands, but we're trying to provide a variety of events for different audiences. And I first saw Megan Högfeldt present to the, was it to the Land and Water Conservation Board in Douglas County, Megan?
It was the Land Conservation Committee. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I knew I'd mess it up. So it was the Land Conservation Committee, and I saw her briefly present, and I was there presenting about the collaborative, and I thought, oh, I'd really like to bring Megan's experience to eastward to a broader audience. And she's really game, and you may have heard her speak on the radio about different watershed and stormwater management projects. So really lucky to have her, and thanks everybody for joining. I won't take up any more time. I'll just say that Megan, again, is with the City of Superior, and your official title is Water Resources Specialist. So I'll hand it over to you. And oh, just one more note, we're trying to keep this a little more informal today. So if, you know, we won't be, Megan won't be talking for an entire hour, and there'll be plenty of time for questions and discussion. So please, you know, don't feel that this is just like the classic webinar where you get talked at. If you have questions later, like, please share them. So I'll mute myself and let you get started, Megan.
Fantastic. Thanks, Erin. Yeah, I think there's someone in the waiting room, just so you, maybe a couple people.
Okay, I'll keep my eye on it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. What a great introduction. Yep, so my name is Megan Högfeldt, and I work for the City of Superior. This is about my third year here. And so this, I'll just pull up my screen. We'll get this party started. Let's see here. Oh, I was sharing. Okay, cool. I've been using a lot of Google Meets, so this is a little different. So yeah, this is an opportunity.
Oh, sorry, just want to say it looks good. I can see it.
Oh, great, thank you. Yeah, you all just vanished, so I can't see you. So this is an opportunity to have a discussion and perhaps an introduction about best winter management practices, and hopefully to open the door to that conversation about consistent messaging on salt practices throughout Wisconsin. So I'll begin the presentation with some thoughtful reasoning for salt reduction and simple practices that you can incorporate in your annual salt use, why salt is an issue, how we're seeing it in local water bodies more often, what barriers the city has faced and maybe you all are facing. And then I like to also talk about misconceptions about salt. I think there's a lot out there. And
using salt. What?
Yeah, and if you could, while I'm presenting, mute, and then if you have any questions, throw questions into the message box, and Erin can maybe direct those to me when she sees fit. And then I'll finally get into the City of Superior's salt reduction. We've done quite a bit, and specifically the Streets Department, Nathan Johnstone has done a lot for the City of Superior. And what I'm doing here is I'm talking about that, and I'm hoping that maybe you all can learn from it, or you can find some resources that are helpful to you, or you can talk to me about it, or other people like Allison Madison, who works for the Wisconsin Saltwise. She's the coordinator that I've been talking with, and a couple other people in Wisconsin and organizations. It's kind of a Wisconsin coalition to bring winter salt certifications to people all over the state, whether it's virtual or in person. It's been all virtual this past year from what I understand. Maybe there's like one calibration training that Allison was able to put together. But what I took here was a screenshot of the Wisconsin Saltwise webpage, and you're seeing these blue boxes are different dates of future trainings. And I want to encourage you all to either reach out to Allison or myself, or jump on this webpage and really search through the different trainings or outreach materials that might help you learn more, or your community learn more about salt reduction and different things that you can do. Also, I'd like to add that the City of Superior is part of the Regional Stormwater Protection Team. It's a Twin Ports regional group, and we have membership dues, and it's been a group since like 2012. It's been around for a while. But as the name implies, we're a stormwater protection team. We do seasonal campaigns, and I have a video here that we put together a while back. I wasn't actually part of the team then, but it's a 30-second PSA, a very easy way for people to kind of grasp some of those initial conversations revolving around salt reduction. And we've had them on TV and on the radio or social media. And Erin, I think it'd be a good time to throw that video up to kick off this training or this presentation.
All right, I'm gonna do that.
Do you need me to stop sharing?
No, I can override you.
Nice.
Something, I have the power to do that. So can you just confirm you can see the video on screen?
Yep, I see it.
All right, I'm gonna hit play now, and hopefully the sound will work for all of you. It's just a quick 30-second PSA, like Megan said.
Salt is great for removing ice, but too much salt can harm your pets, your car, your wallet, and even the environment. And all of that leftover salt washes into our lakes and streams, contaminating our drinking water and hurting our fish and wildlife. A little salt goes a long way. Save money and our environment by applying salt as recommended. 1 cup will treat 70 feet of sidewalk or 2 parking spaces. To learn more about smart salting, visit lakesuperiorstreams.org/salt. Clean stormwater is superior water.
All right, thank you so
Short and
much.
sweet.
Thanks, Erin. All right. So yeah, short and sweet, right to the point. And so it kind of kicks off our conversation about salt and salt reduction really well. It highlights how why salt can be an issue. So each year we use salt as a preventative to slipping on the ice, to keep our roads safe. And I think something that I've noticed is that people are starting to recognize that it's a permanent pollutant, that it's actually chloride, chemical component of sodium chloride, the salt we usually use, is a permanent pollutant. So it's negative, it can negatively affect our aquatic life. And we have some different chloride levels that the limits that EPA and the Wisconsin DNR have put out to help us understand what it means when we're measuring or testing for chloride in our waters and streams, what a chronic exposure and acute exposure could look like, and then also what a natural freshwater chloride level could look like. So if I'm out on a stream, like here in Superior, there's an urban stream called Faxon Creek, and it's kind of goes through the heart of Superior. It's takes on a lot of stormwater runoff, and it's known to have, it's an impaired stream, but it's known to have a number of contaminants in it. And so when we're taking readings and we're seeing that there's a chronic exposure, that means that there's 230 milligrams per liter of chloride in the water, and it's not going to immediately harm the environment, but if it's there for a sustained duration of time, it could definitely have a negative impact on the animals and the fish and the different aquatic life. And then we're going to get into the Wisconsin DNR has a different chronic exposure limit. I personally like to use the EPA limit because I think chloride can have more of an impact on our water than yeah, anyway, that's a personal preference. But then there's also an acute exposure where there's a spike of chloride in our water that could really harm the aquatic ecosystem in a shorter period of time. So it could be like a day or less. And so, so all the salt we use gets carried to our streams, our local waterways through stormwater. And we're seeing that there's a rise in streams and lakes in the Midwest that are impaired due to chloride. And so salty water will sink to the bottom of the lake and create chemical layers in the lake. And these layers prevent that natural seasonal turnover that occurs. And without this turnover, the nutrients and oxygen are not distributed throughout the lake. This results in a lower water quality and can kill aquatic life in the lake. So it's a tough conversation to have because we also rely on salt to keep our people and our community safe. But I'd also like to argue that you can still use salt in a reduced amount and still keep your people and your community safe and your roads safe. So keeping an eye on an urban stream, I think is an excellent way to understand more of how much chloride, how much salt your community is using. And I didn't really know how much salt was in our streams in Superior. So I saw that the Isaac Walton League of America was doing a winter salt watch, and you can request as many chloride tabs and testing strips as you need, and you'll receive them for free. So I did 4 readings. The first is a baseline in Faxon Creek, and then the second one is after the first big snow event. And then these 2 readings are the 3rd and 4th readings after like a warming event in the middle of winter. So then we'd be seeing stormwater and snow melt getting into our streams and pulling that chloride from our roadways and sidewalks. And as you can see, both readings are above the EPA and Wisconsin DNR chronic exposure limits. And while that was kind of unfortunate, definitely unfortunate to see, it's not that uncommon for urban streams. And you'll see that throughout the entire state of Wisconsin, especially in those higher density, population density areas. And I'd also like to point out, this is Faxon Creek, and I'm from the Northwoods, and I learned that creek is crick. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a creek, but I say crick. So this creek was open all winter, and there were other creeks and streams through Superior that were larger or smaller, and they were all frozen. And this one had water flowing and was warm, and so it's just an indication that it has a lot of parking lots. And I know this for a fact too, that has a lot of parking lots with stormwater running off it and into the stream, carrying a lot of chloride. So it's not uncommon, but it's great data to have. And I'm going to keep collecting this data, and then I can talk to, if I really want to make a difference, then I can say this data is something that I can present to other city officials or people in other departments and say, this is a serious issue. We need to talk about this. And this is the data I found. So I would encourage you to have either volunteers or yourself do this next winter. It's really kind of fun to get outside and check out the creek. So something else that I found interesting, this is pulled from the UW Stevens Point and UW Extension's groundwater quality viewer. And so this is a map that shows the private wells of Wisconsin. So if I zoom into Superior, I wouldn't be able to see what the chloride would be in the wells because it's not private. But we can look at this map and generally see higher density of people are, usually more roads, more people, more salt. And we're looking at a darker blue is that there's not much detection, and we're going to go all the way up to 200 milligrams per liter readings in water. And I did a screenshot of the Ashland area and of the private wells, and we're seeing that there's a little bit of a higher reading near Ashland, which makes a lot of sense. There's more people there. But I just find it interesting to be able to see that the chloride affects our groundwater, our soil. It's the only way we can get rid of it is with reverse osmosis. So this is a very expensive, high energy form of removing chloride, and it's just not as accessible as we would like. So the best way to prevent this from happening is to have this conversation and discuss, like, hey, we have really low levels of chloride up here in northern Wisconsin. Let's keep it that way. You know, let's have this conversation. Let's do this preventative talk and implementing a plan for a city or a municipality or a small community so that we don't have to have contaminated wells or streams. So we're having this conversation for our future generations and to protect our streams. Let's see here. I want to make sure I'm on track with this. Something else I'd like to also mention is that in southern Wisconsin, they use water softeners. So even though there definitely are more people in southern Wisconsin, there's also more chloride entering the waterways down there just because of their water softener systems as well. So let's see here. So moving on from this, I guess I'd like to also see if anyone has any questions right now about this map or some of the data I found on Faxon Creek. If not, that's cool too.
One thing I'll just add, Megan, for everybody to know is that these links you're mentioning, because we have quite a few folks calling in, like the Isaac Walton Winter Salt Watch program and SaltWise and other this groundwater quality map. I'm compiling these and we'll email them to everybody after. So if you're on the phone and like trying to figure out what websites are which, don't worry about it. You'll get a follow-up email with the recording today. So anything Megan mentions, I'll get to you.
Oh, thanks, Erin. That's fantastic.
I have a question.
Sure.
This screen that you have up right now, shows that yellow color in the Ashland area.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's salt below the surface? I know if you drill a well too deep in this area, you can get a saltwater well. I wonder if there's salt down deep that's causing some of that.
I think, yeah, that could definitely be true. I personally don't know what kind of salt is in the soil that's already in the soil that's from the rock bed, the bedrock, or other soil from, but that's interesting. I'm not really sure. I can't speak to the soils of that area. I
can jump in.
Yeah.
About Megan, it's Allison. I had to join in via phone, but so Kevin Masaryk is a groundwater specialist with the UW Extension out of UW Stevens Point, and he actually has some data on that. There are some lower level kind of like aquifers in mostly like around like Calumet County, but I think there's a small bit in the far northern corner of the state where you guys are that does have some ancient like sea brine in it. So there are some sources of salt in the bedrock. Very, not much, but that is a contributing factor. How much it's contributing to, like Megan said, if there's one very urbanized stream that has much higher chloride concentrations isn't freezing over relative to other nearby streams. And I think that asks us to question if that, bedrock contribution is really the factor there in the surface water, but definitely could be in various groundwater wells.
Yeah, and I can also, thank you so much, Allison. And I can also connect with Kevin too. And I'm personally curious as well, so I could chat with him. I went to UW Stevens Point, so I know him. I don't know him like incredibly personally, but I had him for a class, so I could ask him about that. If you all don't mind me following up with you.
Allison, do you want to introduce yourself? Because I know some people might not realize that you're with the Saltwise program.
Yeah, please do, Allison.
Yeah, and I apologize that I can't put my video on. My computer was not playing nice with Zoom today. I actually have to take it into work now. But so I'm Allison Madison, and yes, with Wisconsin Saltwise. Wisconsin Saltwise is a partnership of organizations across the state. So Megan with the City of Superior is a part of it. And it's all organizations, municipalities, watershed together to reduce salt pollution into our surface water and our water. So been working to Saltwise, champions, so that we can hear the stories, like the stories that, Megan's going to be showing today. Kind of accelerate the adoption of best management practices from winter road to softener salt use, so that we can really, just reduce these inputs into our water.
Thank you. You're breaking up a little bit, but I think we got the gist of it. And I see Megan included your contact info on the slide, so folks you might be getting some follow-up.
Awesome, that'd be great. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Allison's a great contact, and she has a lot of fantastic resources that she can help connect you to. Yeah, great question though. The bedrock has definitely influenced our soil and water, but how much it can, like Allison said, not really sure. All right, so I'd like to also touch on barriers and misconceptions about salt use, kind of transitioning into the salt application and best intentions. I think one of the biggest conversations I've had with RSPT, the Regional Stormwater Protection Team, and then Wisconsin Saltwise is how do we change these misconceptions about trying to keep people safe by overusing salt. And perhaps someone who lives down your road walks past your house every day, and you specifically put more salt on your sidewalk because they're an elderly person and you don't want them to fall, or your kids play outside and you don't want them to fall and take a digger. So these are really good intentions, but I'd also like to provide the example of, I pulled these from the Wisconsin Saltwise webpage. There's an incorrect application of salt and then the correct application of salt. And when you're overusing that salt, it's most likely going to either get blown away or carried away by stormwater, or like there's these tire tracks on this picture here, carried away by a car. And so it's best to use less and then come back to your sidewalk or parking lot and apply more if you need it. And so then you're saving that money on salt. So you're using less, saving money, and then you're saving that resource too. So, and you're being environmentally friendly. So there's so many benefits to reducing the amount of salt you use. And I've heard this a lot. You got to hear the crunch of salt on the sidewalk or underneath your boot. Same concept, trying to keep people safe. If you're a contractor property manager, you'd rather not deal with the liability of someone falling on your property. But there's also the concepts of get that snow and ice up before it builds up, because that's where your problem lies, is that the salt is a reaction to the ice buildup. It's not getting to that snow before it compacts. That's where the problem lies. So being a proactive, having a proactive plan set in place so that you can get to that buildup or get to it before it builds up. Also, Erin, do you want to throw out the true or false salt is used for traction? We'll have a poll here.
Sure. So I just put out a poll. You should all be able to see it, and it's anonymous, so don't worry, we won't know what you put. And the question is, salt is used for traction, true or false? Looks like we've got 6 false. I would personally put true. I can't answer because I'm in control of the poll, but I definitely fall in that camp of thinking, yeah, what about my neighbors who walk, and I want to be a quote good neighbor and give them some traction. So it looks like we have 10 folks responding. I think that's all we're gonna get because everybody else is calling in, but so we have 2 trues, 8 falses.
So thank you all for participating, and just so I should have said this beforehand, but there's no wrong answer. This is a learning environment, so we're taking that time to talk about this. And so it is false. Salt is, just gonna exit out of this. Salt and sand have very different properties. And so sand is going to be something you want to use for traction. Salt doesn't work for traction. It's and it doesn't, usually when you use sand, you're using it when it's 15 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. So it's during those colder snaps of like when it gets really cold during the winter. So the salt, sodium chloride, doesn't work past 15 degrees Fahrenheit. There's other types of salts that you can use, like magnesium chloride or potassium acetate that work below that temperature. But they're also more expensive. They're a little bit more, there's a timing that you have to think of when using them. You got to read the label. Another thing that you should definitely pre-measure. And with sand, you're using it specifically on those places, the hazardous places, those problematic areas that always have ice during those cold times. So that's a big conversation that I've been trying to focus on with even when I'm working with employees with the city of Superior, like switch from salt to sand. When it's just so cold out, you're going to slip no matter what. 2 more things. There's no truth in labeling law. So read your bags of salt. Know that if there's an environmentally friendly label on it, that doesn't mean it's necessarily true. Probably not true because there's chloride in it. And pet friendly labels, make sure you're reading the ingredients because that also could not be true. It's just so interesting to me that there's no truth in labeling law. And it also doesn't end with salt. There's chloride in fertilizers and pesticides, and like I've mentioned, water softeners. So when we think we're done thinking about salt when spring rolls around, when summer's here, but it's still in our society's daily practices. So if you're one of those people, keep reading the labels and how much to use, and there are practices or trainings to take for those applications as well. Okay, so the city of Superior has definitely been working on those barriers and misconceptions, and I'd have to say, with my limited experience with this type of conversation, it's going to take a while. These type of misconceptions have been around for a long time. But I think Nathan Johnstad with the City of Superior Streets Department and the people here at ESD, the Environmental Services Division, have been working to implement a lot of really great practices that will continue to evolve, and we'll take on more best management practices as we learn. But some of the game changers in salt application was at annual calibration of trucks and other equipment. I know there's a couple training videos that the Wisconsin Saltways has, and the City of Superior does the snow rodeo challenge. There's a picture here of the truck going, the operator going through the snow rodeo challenge in 2018. And every year that calibration is so important, so we're not using so much salt on the roads, but just the just right amount to keep the roads safe. And we've also, the city has purchased sand and brine trucks. So we're using sand on those cold temperatures and in intersections, and brine in those problematic areas, like usually bridges or those bridges where they ice over more quickly. And we also have a plan. We have a before the snow plan and after the storm plan. So before the snow, if it's going to be a big storm and freezing temperatures, we're applying our brine, we're getting sand out there. And then after the storm, or even if it's a series of storms, we're out there plowing. Well, I'm not, but an amazing crew is out there plowing throughout the storm, applying salt and sand, depending on the area. And I think that's one of the biggest game changers, is having a plan and not just reacting to the storms. And then we have our annual salt and equipment trainings, like I've mentioned. I do the salt trainings, and I also extend the invitation out to property managers, or I'm forwarding the trainings from Wisconsin Saltwise or the MPCA to these property managers or anyone who's available to take them. And then the snow rodeo has been going on for a while, and I just think it's fantastic. And I think there's a couple other places in Wisconsin that do this. But what they do is they talk about prior accidents and the costs associated with each accident, and preventatives for future snow problems. And then after these trainings, the drivers are broken into teams and have to complete a time driving course, like obstacle course, that includes plowing as close as possible to those cones, navigating around cones, and parking. And if cones are knocked off course, the driver has points deducted. So there's incentive to do well. And there's renewal of license. So it's a very, very intensive program. And I'd be willing to talk with people or get them in contact with Nathan Johnstad, the streets department supervisor. He's done a fantastic job with yearly salt cost and use reduction. This is just up until 2020 that I have currently. I'll have more information next year, of course. But we saw a real decrease in 2014, 2015. And you're seeing the, let's see here. We've used about 1,000 tons less salt. That's about a 34% decrease in the past 2 years, and saved over 60 grand. This is all despite the overwhelming amount of snow we had in 2019 and 2020. And so you're also seeing a little bit of a rise here in 2018 and 19, because there was a lot of small snow events consistently. So they're out there plowing and applying more salt throughout the duration of the storms. So if this last year, there was less snow, so we'll probably see more of a decline in salt use overall. But that's where that little spike happened. But yeah, quite a bit of change. Like I said, the game changers were the brine trucks, having a plan before the storm, after the storm. Pretty exciting stuff. And Nathan also refilled the salt shed in the spring each year, which is at a lower cost than in the winter. So he's saving money, he's planning ahead in that way as well. So a lot of planning, a lot of conversations, a lot of planning, a lot of equipment management. Okay, let's see here. And so we've also been receiving a lot of support in our community, whether it's from residents or city departments. Salt use reduction decreases, local stream negative impacts on local streams in Lake Superior. And there's a lot of residents who, like you all know, in your own communities that love Lake Superior, and we're all in the basin. So it's all ending up in Lake Superior at some point. That's a really big driving force for our community. So when we mention that, the truth in that, people listen. But also Nathan has been on top of recording their annual budget decrease in salt use. There's a direct correlation with the cost when he is using less salt, and he can report back on that. And anyone's gonna like to hear that. But we also have the Regional Stormwater Protection Team, Wisconsin Saltwise, and the Isaac Walton League, the Winter Salt Watch program. And so there's a lot of support, and we couldn't have done it without everyone. So the next steps are continued education and best management practices, learning more about snow plowing, anti-icers, how can we incorporate salt brine into maybe even applying to our city sidewalks, not just streets. And then my side of things is outreach and stream monitoring. How do we keep this conversation rolling with our community and with people like you who are an extension of that? And how can we learn from each other? And some takeaways. So we're switching to sand or birdseed when temps reach below 15 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's such a great takeaway. I've also learned from Wisconsin Saltwise crew that you can also use birdseed. So you're feeding the birds, you're increasing traction, you're probably also feeding the other furry friends. So you can watch the birds while you're also keeping people safe. But the first line of defense is shoveling, clearing your sidewalk, clearing the roads. Then you're selecting the correct de-icer. You're scattering 3 inches of space between salt granules. Go back if it still needs some more. But it's that intention to use less. Your initial application is that intention to use less. And then sweep up leftover salt or sand to reuse as needed. And like I said, track your costs and savings and listen to your operators. They're the ones on the roads. They're the ones out there seeing everything and know what's going on. And then don't oversalt. Remember, keep your waterways and your local ecosystems in mind. If you have any questions, I can take those now. Otherwise, I do have a funny video to share at some point, so I'll leave it open to questions right now.
I have a question. Is the city of Superior using brine, applying it to their salt, or just on its own? You know how they're using salt brine?
Yep, they're using, I'll pull up our management plan. So currently the city of Superior is using magnesium chloride in a brine. And so it's for those colder temperatures. And then also potassium acetate as a third chemical treatment. So the first being sodium chloride, just the regular salt granules, and then magnesium chloride, and then potassium acetate. So but like I said, those 2 chemicals are for those colder temperatures. we have salt brine trucks. So there's tanks that will calibrate to, according to their route, how much brine to drop per mile or per block. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of, I guess. Just curious how they're doing it.
Yeah.
I guess
Go ahead.
I had a
Allison.
question there. So yeah, so with the question, are you trying to get at, does Superior use brine for pre-wet as well, in addition to just straight anti-icing, de-icing?
Yeah, I guess I was wondering, I mean, are they anti-icing? Are they pre-wetting their salt? Or, just in general, how they're using the brine?
Oh, okay. It's an anti-icer. So they're using it before and then I guess also after the storms. But the brine is an approach where it's not pre-wetting, it's actually creating a liquid. And so when you're pre-wetting salt, you're just putting it in a bin with water, and it's still kind of there. It's still like, it's still in its granule state. But this is an actual brine, like a liquid. So it's dissolving it into a liquid. So it can be sprayed onto the road.
Sure. We use a mixture of 75% salt brine, 5% calcium chloride, 20% beet juice.
Oh, cool.
And we apply it to our salt as it comes out of the truck. We spray it on the salt right before it falls,
Yeah,
gets to the ground.
right.
And we try for a minimum application of 30 gallons per ton of salt. We're running 30 to 40 gallons per ton of salt. Helps in a lot of different ways. It makes it so it don't bounce and scatter so much. It keeps it more concentrated.
Right.
We're plowing highways, obviously not city streets, where we want to concentrate it on the center line of the road so it stays there.
Of course.
Traffic doesn't blow it off right away off into the ditches where it does nobody any good. The beet juice helps a lot in different situations. It gives it some color. So when the sun does come out, I think it helps collect heat faster. It also makes it stickier. It sticks it to the road better. I think it has a lot of good properties that adds value to the brine mixture.
Yeah, where do you get your beetroot juice? Like, where do you source that from?
I buy it from a company called Smith Grain and Fertilizer, SFG. We get it in 5,000 gallon tankers. Comes out of the Dakotas usually, I think. But
Okay, nice. That's great to hear. Yeah, there's many different ways to do it.
And where are you from? I'm sorry, the person who was just speaking about the brine.
Ashland County.
Ashland
Highlands.
County. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I would love to get some more information from you about that, and maybe put something up on the Saltwise website to talk a little about what's working for you guys up there. It's always great to have more stories for people.
Yeah, sure, that'd be fine.
Any other questions for Megan? We have plenty of time. We also have that video from the regional stormwater protection team we could show. Feel free to just unmute yourself. Hopefully if you're calling in, you know how to do that on the phone. I admit I don't know how to unmute myself if I'm calling into a Zoom.
How is your annual salt training conducted? Is it just an in-house tailgate talk, or do you actually do some more extensive training?
Yeah, so there's a couple parts to your question. So I do trainings here at the Environmental Services Division. We're located at the wastewater treatment plant, so we have a lot of facilities to manage for snow removal, but so I talked to them about sidewalk and snow removal and salt application and sand application. And then the streets department, Nathan Johnstad, they do the truck and other snow equipment trainings, whether it be calibration or certifications for license, and then they have the snow rodeo where they kind of turn it into this how well can you plow, and if you can't plow well, let's talk about it and what you can do to become a better plower. So the ESD, the Environmental Services Division, and the Streets Department kind of operate separately, but we do send some of our ESD operators who also use the trucks to those trainings at the Streets Department. So if anyone is operating a truck or bigger equipment, we send them to the Streets Department to get trained. And so there's more to it than just that, but that's the gist of it. Does that answer your question?
Well, it sounds like it's comprehensive. You cover all areas of
Yeah.
winter snow
Yes.
removal.
Yep, and it's the different sections of Superior and problematic areas, previous accidents, how to prevent those accidents in specific intersections that are known to get icy, or when to use a salt brine, when to use sand. Yeah, very comprehensive.
Just a note about training, and Allison, if you're still there, I'm sorry, I feel like I keep putting you on the spot, but I noticed on the Saltwise website, there's some upcoming events, workshops related to smart salting for roads, parking lots, sidewalks. Do you have a minute to speak to those in case folks might be interested?
Yes, definitely. So there are a number of classes coming up this fall, so starting in August through November. Those are 4 to 4.5 hour trainings, and they are run through Fortin Consulting, who actually developed the smart salting training in conjunction with the state of Minnesota's Pollution Control Agency several years ago. So those trainings are now actually required in the state of Minnesota, but in Wisconsin, we've just been hosting them for free, and they're open. The smart salting for Wisconsin roads are open to any municipal staff members who would want to get it's a pretty comprehensive primer on dust management practices, and goes into calibration, de-icing, anti-icing principles, etc. And then there's also a smart salting for parking lots and sidewalks. And so that's a class that's geared a little bit more towards private contractors, as well as, city park staff, etc. As the smart salting for roads class has become more and more popular, and various municipalities are making some really significant reductions, there's been, conversations that now we really need to target the same information to private contractors. And so that was kind of the impetus for the second class, which has gained a bit of traction in the Madison area. But, thanks to one thing we can thank COVID for is, this virtual learning environment. So these classes are available to anybody in the state of Wisconsin. So I would highly encourage people to kind of check those out. You can read a little bit more about them on the website, or, ask me if you have any questions. And we are also working to set up some equipment open houses and calibration demonstrations across the state as well this fall. So any interest, needs that you have for training, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I can work to get something set up.
Thank you. That's so great.
Yep, I'm just speaking on a small section of what's going on in Wisconsin. So I'm so glad, Allison, you can speak to all those trainings and what you have going on.
Got about 7 more minutes for questions. Unless Megan, there's something you want to just share, something maybe you didn't think of to say yet. But yeah, feel free to unmute yourselves. We still have 15 folks on here, so. Or I could bring up that video if you wanted.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else I could talk on. I feel like it just flew by. And
Well, the video is only 50 seconds. Would you like me to pull it up?
yeah, so this video is, thanks, Erin. This video is something that really gained a lot of traction in our community is the No Poop Fairy. And it's a pollution prevention campaign that grew from just talking about cleaning up after your pets to litter, like garbage litter or leaf litter in your storm drains, and how to prevent that kind of pollution from getting into your streams. And this poop fairy or No Poop Fairy really takes on some humor and education and pairs it very well in my mind, and our community seems to really like it. So I thought I'd share it. And yeah, thanks, Erin.
Ooh, what are you doing? Don't you even know how to dump your trash?
Poop fairy?
It's No Poop Fairy, and I'm more than dog poop and parks. I care about everything that hits our streams and lakes, including your overflowing garbage. Your trash starts here and ends here.
Hey, that goes right to the water.
Congratulations. Now you are an unintentional litterer. You see, I'm really more than just a single-issue mythical being. Learn a poop ton more online.
Oh, looks like Erin, you asked if you could buy tickets to the snow rodeo.
Just sounds kind of fun to see plows going around cones and stuff.
Yeah, I think with COVID becoming less of a, maybe I shouldn't even say that, but maybe it could be more of a thing that different community people could come to. I might ask Nathan. He's a very busy man dealing with the streets, so maybe he'll be open to it. Yeah, but Erin, you should definitely, you should come check it out. It's really cool.
And I'll just mention the videos we showed there's a whole bunch of them, and I'll share that link as well in the follow-up email. Is the Regional Stormwater Protection Team responsible for all of those? Is that right, Megan? Okay.
Yeah, and it looks like Karina also shared the university website. Thanks, Karina. She's also on the RSPT team.
It's not often we get to say poop in a professional setting.
Well, I do. I work at the wastewater treatment.
That's true. That's true for me. Yeah. Well, if there's no other questions, we can wrap up a few minutes early. That's fine.
Sure.
But I'll just last call for questions. Anybody?
And I'll put my information in here. I know, Erin, you're gonna send out stuff, but if anyone wants to directly contact me, I am open to that conversation, and I can direct you to other people or our resources. It's been a pleasure talking with you all. Hopefully you've either learned something or have something to tell me later on that I should learn about. There's always room for learning, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this. And this was recorded, so if you wanted to go back and rewatch or maybe share with a colleague or someone you work with in your county or municipality, you'll be getting a email for the YouTube page where this will be hosted. So thanks everybody for coming. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you both.
Thank you.